Hey there, it's God-given. This is a guide to Zhezhi. Zhezhi is the best girl. Zhezhi is a Glacio DPS unit, which uses off-field coordinated attacks and can be a great addition to your account if you have characters like Ling Yang, Jinshi, Changli, or any other DPS units which either deal Glacio damage or deal a lot of resonance skill damage. Her in-game kit explanation is long AF, but she's actually quite easy to pick up and use. Without further ado, let's get into the guide. Starting with Zhezhi's kit. Zhezhi has a basic attack chain consisting of 3 attacks. Upon hitting enemies with these attacks, Zhezhi will gain her forte resource called Afflatus, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. One full chain will give Zhezhi up to 45 of the resource, and she can hold up to 90 at once. Zhezhi's resonance skill attacks enemies in a line in front of her and can trigger her forte circuit. If Zhezhi has at least 60 Afflatus, then the skill will also summon 2 phantasmic imprints on the field, which I will call marks.
Oh, hi Mark.
If you tap the skill, then these marks will appear on the ground, and if you hold the skill or use it mid-air, then they will appear in the air. If there's a mark on the field, then you can tap the skill again. You will teleport to the mark and deal damage to enemies, while also gaining a stack of Painter's Delight. When you have 2 stacks of Painter's Delight, the next time you use the skill on an on-field mark, you will deal some more damage and gain an 18% basic attack damage bonus for 27 seconds. You'd have to get a 3rd mark in order to use this enhanced skill and gain the buff though. The 3rd mark can be summoned by using a heavy attack called Conjuration and having 30 Afflatus. There are 5 ways to use Conjuration, those being using a heavy attack after the 3rd attack of the chain, using a basic attack after using the resonance skill, using a basic attack after teleporting to a mark, using a heavy attack mid-air, and finally using a heavy attack after dodging. The most common way to summon all 3 marks will require you to have 90 Afflatus, use the skill and basic attack right after the skill. Last thing to mention about the Forte circuit, if you have Zhezhi's first passive node unlocked, you will gain up to 18% attack when using the skill to teleport to marks. Zhezhi's Resonance Liberation summons Spirit Burbs for 30 seconds to do coordinated attacks with the on-field character whenever they deal damage. For 1 instance of damage dealt, Zhezhi will do 3 coordinated attacks, 1 attack each second, to a maximum of 21 attacks. Zhezhi's intro skill attacks the enemies and gives her 45 Afflatus. Zhezhi's outro skill gives the incoming character a 20% Glacio damage and 25% resonance skill damage amplifications for 14 seconds or until they are switched off field. If you have the second passive node unlocked, then the outro will also give the incoming character 15 resonance energy. When leveling up talents, prioritize Zhezhi's Forte circuit and resonance liberation first, then her resonance skill, then the basics and the intro skill. Last thing to mention about Zhezhi's kit, most of her damage is considered to be basic attack damage, so keep that in mind when you're building her. Speaking about building, let's get into how to build Zhezhi. Starting with the weapon choices. The best in slot weapon for Zhezhi is her signature weapon, Rhyme Draped Sprouts. The second best option is Yinlin's signature, String Master. After that comes the standard 5-star weapon, Cosmic Ripples. For the 4-star weapons, your best options are the Augment, the Battle Pass weapon, and the Jinzhou Keeper, a gacha weapon. You can also go for the 3-star Guardian Rectifier or the Rectifier of Night if you don't have any of the weapons mentioned prior. Now for the echoes. For the main stats, go for attack percent on the 1 costs, Glacio damage on the 3 costs, and crit rate or crit damage on the 4 costs. For the substats, prioritize getting crit rate and crit damage, then energy regen until you have 120 or 130% of it, then attack percent and basic attack damage percent bonus, then flat attack. Most of the time you'll want to go for the Moonlit Clouds Echo set, as usually Zhezhi is going to be played as the Sub-dps. For those of you who want to play her as a Main-dps, you can also go for the Freezing Frost set. Going for a mix of both if you don't have solid 5-piece sets is also fine. You should go for a 4-3-3-1-1 setup if you have good Glacio damage 3 costs. Even if they're not great, it might still be worth rocking it instead of 4-4-1-1-1, because farming 4 costs for Moonlit Clouds is a bit harder than other sets, as the Bell Turtle can drop on both Moonlit Clouds and on Rejuvenating Glow sets. And you cannot go for the 4-4-1-1-1 at all on the Freezing Frost set, as there is no second Glacio 4 cost in the game as of the 1.2 patch. Use the Impermanence Heron Echo skill for the Moonlit Clouds set, or the Lampy Lumen Myriad for the Freezing Frost set. You can also use the Glacio Dreadmane or the Lumiscale Construct if you like those more. That's it for the build. Now let's get into how to play Zhezhi. Zhezhi's rotations all boil down to one thing. Use ult, gain the full 40 gauge, summon 3 marks, use the 3 marks, and echo skill, and swap out. I'll take the 2 most common situations you'll find yourself in and explain them. All other situations you will figure out with more experience playing Zhezhi. Situation 1. You swap into Zhezhi with intro skill. The rotation in this case is going to be intro, 3 basics, skill into basic attack, skill 3 times to utilize the 3 marks, echo skill, swap out. You can use the ultimate after the intro if you have it, or before the echo skill if you gained it while doing the rotation. Situation 2, you swap into Zhezhi without intro. The rotation is essentially the same, except you'll have to do 2 basic attack chains instead of 1 in the previous situation. There's obviously a lot of variety in what can happen in the fights. The second rotation takes a lot of time, so you might want to opt out of using the full rotation, only using ult, 3 basics, and then swapping out to another character to gain Concerto energy on them to get an intro on Zhezhi and continue the rotation that way. This is all going to come from experience, so you will get more comfortable with your rotations the more you play. Now let's get into the teams, starting with the Sub-dps Zhezhi teams. Lingyang Zhezhi support is the best team as of 1.2 for the Lingyang mains, as you've finally gotten a Glacio damage amplification buff, and Lingyang can utilize the resonance skill damage amplification to an extent as well. Zhezhi Zhezhi support is an amazing team, as Zhezhi utilizes the resonance skill damage boost from Zhezhi's outro, she gets more stacks of her forte from the coordinated attacks, and she actually helps Zhezhi's rotation as well, with her free outro mechanic. Changli Zhezhi support is also a great team since Changli can use Zhezhi's outro skill, and unlike a similar team with Tao Chi, Zhezhi generates Concerto energy easier and will actually deal some damage. These are the 3 main teams that I see Zhezhi being a great part of filling the sub-DPS role. You can also simply use Zhezhi as a sub-DPS with any other main DPS unit just for the sake of dealing off-field damage if you don't have better options or if you just like the gameplay loop of the team comp. Now for the Zhezhi main DPS teams. I only have one in mind that I personally like, and that is Zhezhi Sanhua support, as Sanhua has quick rotations, generates a lot of Concerto energy, and can buff Zhezhi's basic attack damage with her outro skill. You can use other sub-DPS options like Yinlin or Mortefi, but there are no real synergies in these teams. But as I always say, try different teams with units that you like, and you might just get a team that is the best for you. That's it for the guide. Zhezhi ended up being much more casual player friendly than I thought at first when I saw the text length of her Forte circuit. So yeah, if you decided that you want to pull this shy artist, then good luck. Just make sure you don't bully her out of doing art. From history we know of one such person, and it didn't end well. Thank you guys for watching the video, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and see you in the next one.